Alright, so I have a whole bunch of green paint on my palette because I was mixing all my colors, and I thought I would share with you, really this is a wonderful way to kind of get rid of some of the greens that's on your palette that you would just wipe away. Why don't we make a really fun summer-ish, spring-ish tree from the palette. So I'm just running my palette down again so I can get some good greens and have it kind of, you know, flow and have it beautiful. I'm just making all my greens. So I like to make splatter trees, and I know I've done this before, but there's a couple different ways. If you just want to get a kind of a start of a tree going and you don't quite know the shape yet, so this is gonna be a very, maybe it's like a big oak tree, I don't know. I'm gonna add some of this yellow into it. Maybe I'll even kind of circle my brush around a little bit. That looks about right. And what I can do is then I'm just going to go back in and I'm going to splatter, 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 splatter. And just get some really fun colors. And all the color, it's just a fun little exercise that I like to do. It helps me learn how to use my control. Now that might be a little more splatter than you would like, and that's okay. What I will do is I will just clean up my splatter wherever I don't want it. And I will even let the watercolor kind of do its thing on the paper because I think that's really pretty too. And so you might be thinking, oh my gosh, you got this like weird happy tree thing happening. And that's probably true, but it's the beauty of watercolor. And now, I don't know if I really need any really harsh edges. A little bit is fine. I don't want a lot of harsh edges. And there, now I have the start of my tree. And what is really fun is then I can just go in with my red, add some of this green, make this really nice brown color. And maybe I'll start here. That's a little too green for my taste. So I'm going to add some of that red, and that's too red, but that's okay. And I got this really fun little tree happening. And then if I wanted more of that holes, you know, where the leaves kind of grow. And what I love about painting this way is when the trees are blowing, you don't actually ever see the harsh ledges, right? Like you see the leaves rustling around, and that's what I love. Somewhere in the middle is this perfectly gray brown that I am going to get. It's just working it in there. Maybe it is more of a reddish tree. Who knows? But it's just so much fun to paint. And then I'll let that dry. And then I can come back in with some blue paint and just add some extra like to add the sky if I wanted to. But yeah, that's how I like to use up my extra paint that's on my palette from an exercise. And sometimes I will even do this just to give the tree a little bit more depth. And I will let this dry, and then I'll come back in and maybe add a little bit more splatter. And then, because it's a card and I want it to be indicative of a greeting card, I will add some gold splatter too. That's looking really pretty. So let me get my gold out. I think I'll go with the blue gold or the yellow gold. Let's go with the yellow gold. I bet that'll look really pretty. And I'm just going to sprinkle it on, splatter it on. It's looking really pretty, and I love how the trunk is looking. This is going to be really pretty. Now, had I given myself a little bit more time, I probably would have put the tree maybe off to one side or something, but I think this is going to work just fine the way it is. And I really kind of like that. I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to add the trunk in again and just add some more lines to where the trunk is right now. I think the trunk is just getting lost, but that's okay. That's part of it. And I don't know. I think you can really just get some beautiful, get this going and looking really pretty. In fact, it's looking really nice the way it is. So anyways, we'll just let that dry, and I can always put a sentiment right here, just even if it's just a thinking of you or a happy Father's Day. Maybe I'll even add like a really nice little bird or something. I don't know. I could add a bird. Just right. I feel like you always have to do like 3. I don't know, something like that. That would look pretty. But we'll let it dry and come back to it, and then maybe we'll turn this into a card. But I'm loving the gold splatter. If I wanted to be a little bit more strategic, I would just add a little bit more. You don't want to go too much, but we still have a ton of we still have a ton of green that we can use, so why not? Alright, now we'll let it be. We'll dry it up and add some more details to it. Alright, we're going to add some brown. So this was just red and that Veridian color. And because we're dealing with a three-dimensional subject and we're trying to paint three-dimensional, we have to kind of take some liberties. So would my branch look like that? Well, maybe, but it is right now because it's just a two-dimensional object, and I can also get some of my value out so it looks more like a shape. I can take some of this beautiful Veridian Green and some of that beautiful red and make it richer, and just, I really love what's happening right there, so I'm going to try to not mess with that too much. This is a very thick consistency, and I can always just kind of go in, add some shading where I think it needs it. Like, I want it to be very loose and fluid, but I also want a little bit of form, and so that's what I'm doing here. So I'm adding that form that we lost. Right? And that's alright. I'm happy to do that. And maybe right down here, so it looks like that's a branch. Yeah, like I felt like I kind of maybe went a little overboard right here. There, and I think that one's about done. I could add a little bit more, but we're going to let that dry. I think this is really pretty. I think I would just stamp something right here, or maybe even right here, and put it on a card. If I wanted to do anything, I might just do that, and then just let the watercolor kind of do its thing. Yeah, that looks good, and I think I would call this done. There's like a white space right there that I'm not loving. But there's enough form in this tree that it's going to look just fine. I do say that this looks maybe a little bit out of place. So we're just going to blend that in. Same thing here. I don't necessarily want harsh lines. That's not the point of this tree. This tree is rustling in the wind. There, that looks better. Alright. And as always, if you found this video to be a tutorial, and as always, I produce content every Thursday with watercolor artists in mind that like to paint watercolor cards. I have found watercolor cards to be a really enjoyable thing to practice my skills and to share my love of painting to those around me. So subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and happy painting!